Thank you for being here. It's a wonderful pleasure to come to Mystic. Me and my wife love it here. We love going in the water. We love walking around. And her family from Lithuania, they felt this was a special place, like much of Eastern Connecticut. And I am more than honored to be your congressional candidate for this race in 2012. There's never been a time in our nation's history where Connecticut desperately needed a conservative, fiscally responsible, proven leader. And I'm here to fight for you, my family, your children, your grandchildren, and the great state of Connecticut in the United States Congress. Yeah. Give you a little bit of detail of why I'm running. 5 years ago, I was actually in Washington, D.C., traveling the country, visiting about 500 corporations, 500 businesses from Puerto Rico to Maine. You get a good feeling of what's going on when you talk to business owners that have 50 employees. One actually had 30,000 employees. But actually you get a real good feeling of what's going on in America. What I started to realize was there's a lot of problems. Regulations, taxes, mandates, spending, bonding, borrowing. It's out of control. We never could have imagined that this president would take it to another level. This Congress, when it was one-party Congress for 2 years, now for some reason he makes it like there was no chance for him to change the direction of our country. He did change it, the wrong direction. And Joe Cornyn was there 100% of the time. But what I realized is that Connecticut desperately needed a passionate, conservative, fiscally responsible leader to come back to our great state and try to win some elections. The people had no choice. Southeastern Connecticut no longer had a minority, being the independent or Republican in any of our seats above the municipal level. So in 2007, I decided to run for public office. I would run to be an alderman in the city of Norwich. I can't tell you how many people say, Chris, listen, you run in the city, you're Republican, we'll give you, hopefully you can get some votes and have a good showing. I was one of the top vote getters in the city of Norwich. I ran on very pure ideas. That you can't spend more than you make. You can't just keep on borrowing to pay your bills. That government has to be held accountable, and elected officials can do that by putting caps on spending. A few weeks on the job, I actually reached out to some of my colleagues, a couple of Democrats, a couple of Republicans, and said, listen, we're going to put a spending cap in the city of Norwich. We're spending too much money. For the most part, we implemented a spending cap that year. First time in many years, the spending dropped from 6% to 3%. Then when it came back to the council, after the manager listened to our spending cap, I said, I want another 1% off. They didn't agree with me on that, but we did cut another $500,000. It's the start of a proven track record of being fiscally responsible. We reined in out-of-control spending. Next year comes, I have a bunch of friends and supporters across Norwich and the region. They say, Chris, we really think you can make a difference at a higher level. We'd love for you to run for state rep. Photo with my family, talked it over with my friends, my supporters. We decided to run for state office. Now, if you remember, 2008 was not a great year to run for state office or for federal office as a Republican, especially in Connecticut. President Obama. He had some coattails. He probably spent $10 million in Connecticut. Our candidate probably spent $10. The result was a 60-40 landslide. Most people told me, Chris, you might want to wait to a different year. I said no. America, democracy relies on us having a choice of candidates. A Democrat, a Republican, independent. At least two people need to run for real democracy. And I'm going to run. Because every seat in southeastern Connecticut has an incumbent Democrat who, for the most part, is running unopposed. So I'm going to run. I went town to town, knocked on 4,000 doors. Every elected official, there was 20. Not one came out and publicly supported me, even the Republicans. So for the most part, I was out there by myself. I had about 30 family members and friends out there, even Lauren Potty was out there at the polling station, my World War II buddy. During that, I had really a bunch of people who had no idea about politics. But we all knew about America. And we knew that if you really believe, you can win. It ends up, the results come in that night. Hartford couldn't believe it. Everybody's losing. All across New England, just about every loss. We won. We were one of the few victors in New England. We beat a seated 14-year incumbent Democrat leader by 8 points. Not just beat him, we beat him bad. which was a great thing for the party, that someone could continue to raise our banner and speak up for fiscal sanity. Since then, I've worked very hard. In Hartford, we've challenged everything. We've sued the governor. We've questioned things like the spending package, the one vote, no vote, and I backed up with an op-ed that made it very clear why I challenged that piece of legislation. It was a waste of money, and it isn't going to produce jobs. It's just a continuation of the same pattern that we see at the state and federal level. More and more spending, more and more borrowing, and more taxes. So now we have a big question mark. What do we do in the future? This past cycle, if some of you didn't know, the Democrats put their top candidate in the state against me. The head of SEIU, the head of CBAC, she had 40 volunteers canvassing my district every day.
Paid volunteers.
Yeah, paid volunteers. So it ends up, we literally had to fight a very tough battle against someone who was very strong in many ways. And not to also mention, she was a town leader for one of my towns. She recently won re-election 800 to 200. So she's a pretty strong leader. We ended up taking it right to her. We won by 15 points. So it was a huge victory to make sure we don't have another entrenched, far-left extreme, SEIU-branded leader in Hartford, because we have too many of them. We won that election. But at the same time, what else I did? I led the Common Sense for Connecticut Coalition. One of the leaders, I was the one from Eastern Connecticut. We had 50 or 60 candidates across the state. I, for the most part, was in charge of Eastern Connecticut. Together, we won 15 seats. The significance of that is, in the past 30 years, the most seats that ever changed one party to another in the State House was 7. We doubled that. So when somebody tells you how bad the Republicans lost out the last few years, tell them you don't know what you're talking about. We won at the state level, and we won big. We had another 20 races that were lost by less than 6 points. Literally, if we won the 20 other House seats, we would just about be in the majority right now. So we did a great job winning seats, bringing top-tier candidates to run for office in communities across Connecticut. And we made a big impact in southeastern Connecticut. We almost won a few seats in southeastern Connecticut, but in general, for the first time in many years, we had some competitive races, which was a great thing. So now we find ourselves in a predicament. How do we lead Connecticut forward? What do we need? And I truly believe we need one leader to step up and show this is what a real Republican is. First American before party, represent the people before party or special interests, has a proven record of leading in many capacities, and we're going to take it to Joe Courtney and beat him in 2012.
Yeah.